Tommy was smart. Once Tommy found out how things were going, he moved off because he could.
The Delfonics may have captured your heart, but you may never look at them the same way ever again after this. Why? Because these guys just couldn't get it together. It all started with internal conflicts among the founding members, which led to lineup changes and messed with their unity.
They had to do something because the old sound was fading and the new sound was coming in. So when that new sound comes in, you're trying to stay relevant.
Then, William Hart took his leadership role a bit too far, especially when it came to controlling the group's finances.
It wasn't pleasant being with him because it was always an argument. So I felt better, kind of like, oh, we can separate everything to be good. Use the name, I use it.
Then came the legal battles over who owned the group's name and music rights. Members started leaving, and record label issues began to limit their creative freedom. It's no surprise their career took a serious nosedive. Let's dive in deeper.
Well, we're from West Philadelphia, and I guess it was 1966, 65.
Before the Delfonics became a famous music group, William "Poogie" Hart sang in many smaller groups. He was very young when he started singing. He joined groups like Little Heart and the Everglows, the Veltones, the Four Guys, and the Four Gents. These were local singing groups made up of friends from his neighborhood. Some of the people he sang with included his brother Wilbert Hart, Richie Daniels, Randy Kane, Jimmy Roten, Stan Lathan, and Donald Cannon. Many of them met while they were students at Overbrook High School in Philadelphia during the 1960s. They all loved music and spent a lot of time practicing and singing together.
We were just another doo-wop group out, on the corners of Philadelphia.
Around 1964, William and his brother Wilbert formed a group called the Orphonics. They started this group with their friends, Randy Kane and Richie Daniels. But Richie later joined the military, so they brought in another singer named Ricky Johnson. After a while, Randy Kane came back, and the group was just William, Wilbert, and Randy. They stayed with the name the Orphonics. The name came from a stereo machine the Hart brothers had in their basement. They used to listen to music and practice singing in that basement, so it was a special place for them. In 1965, William Hart was working at a barbershop in Philadelphia. He was cutting hair during the day, but music was still his dream. He used to bring his guitar and sing songs he had written while working. One day, a man named Stan Watson came into the barbershop.
And we ran into a guy named Stan Watson.
Okay.
And he introduced us, long story short, to Tom Bell.
He heard William singing and was very impressed. Stan told William that he knew a music producer named Tom Bell, who was already working with big artists like Chubby Checker. Stan thought Tom could help William and his group.
Tommy used to work for a record company, not a record company, but a record label called Cameo Parkway.
Tom Bell is a master musician. He's a great arranger. And Tommy brought so much to it because he was a perfectionist.
Stan introduced William to Tom Bell, and William showed him a song he had written called He Don't Really Love You. Tom liked the song right away and created a music arrangement for it. They recorded the song, and it came out on a small label called Moonshot Records.
He don't really love you, girl.
At first, the group's name was written as the Delfonics on the record, and Tom Bell's name was listed as Tommy Bell. Later, they changed the spelling to the Delfonics and re-released the song. In 1967, they released their second song, You've Been Untrue, with the help of Tom Bell again. This time, it was released on Cameo Records.
Well, baby.
That's how the Delfonics got started and began their journey to success. The group had many hit songs during their best years. They also had big hits like Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time?
Didn't I blow your mind this time? Didn't I
and Ready or Not, Here I Come, Can't Hide from Love.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
These songs were played on radios all over the country. People of all ages sang along to their music. Their songs were about love, heartbreak, and emotions that many people could relate to. The Delfonics had a way of putting deep feelings into simple, beautiful songs. Their music played at dances, weddings, and even on TV and in movies. Over time, their songs became timeless, meaning people kept enjoying them even many years later. But even with all their success, problems started to happen inside the group. The two brothers, William and Wilbert Hart, started having disagreements. These disagreements caused tension between them and made it hard to work together. They did not always agree on how the group should move forward. This led to arguments about who should lead and how the songs should be made. The problems grew worse over time, and the group started to change. Members came and went, and the strong connection they once had began to weaken. It became clear that their unity was breaking apart. Because of the fights between William and Wilbert, the group changed a lot. At one point, there were even two different groups both using the name the Delfonics. One group was led by William Hart, and the other was led by Wilbert Hart.
My husband designed a lot of their uniforms, and he was always looking for something different for them to wear. They started wearing the kufi hats.
This confused fans and made it hard for people to know which group was the real one. These changes hurt their fame and made it harder for them to stay popular.
You know, you want to be humble. I am humble. I'm very humble. I know that through the grace of God, everything's happening, you know, so.
William's leadership helped the group reach success. He worked hard to guide them in the right direction. Because of his talent and strong personality, people often saw him as the main star of the group.
He actually told me, don't write. Let me get everything out of my head first, and then you start writing. You're gonna mess up the Delfonic sound. I wasn't hearing that.
However, being in charge brought some problems. William had a lot of control over everything the group did. He made decisions about the music, the image, and even the money. Some members of the group started to feel that he was doing too much. They felt he was not letting others have a say. These feelings caused tension between Hart and the other members. They thought he was making choices that only helped himself and not the whole group. It started to feel less like a team and more like Hart was the boss and they were just workers. There were also serious claims about how Hart handled the group's money. Some bandmates believed that Hart took more than his fair share. They said he was in charge of the earnings and didn't share everything properly. This made them feel cheated. Money problems are often hard for groups, especially when people feel they are not being treated fairly. It hurt the trust between the members. Some even said Hart used his position to benefit himself and leave others out of the bigger picture. These feelings of being used made the working environment difficult for everyone. While the Delfonics were struggling with these personal issues inside the group, they also had to deal with problems from the outside. One big issue was about who owned the group's name and the rights to their music.
It wasn't pleasant being with him because it was always an argument. So I felt better, kind of like, we can separate, everything will be good. Use the name, I use it.
As time passed and members left or came back, the question of who truly owned the Delfonics became confusing. Some people said they had the right to use the name. Others disagreed. This led to legal fights in court. These legal battles were stressful and expensive. They also made it harder for the group to perform and make new music together. All this legal trouble made it harder for the group to move forward. It took time, energy, and money away from making music. Fans were often confused too. Sometimes they would see a group using the name the Delfonics, but the members on stage were not the original ones. This made the group's name feel less special. In 1974, another big change happened. Major Harris, one of the important singers in the group, decided to leave. This was after they released their fifth album, Alive and Kicking. His leaving was a big loss for the group. He had a strong voice and a lot of fans liked him. When he left, it felt like a piece of the group's heart was missing. His departure also showed that things inside the group were not going well. It was clear that not everyone was happy with how things were being handled. Some said he left because of all the issues with money and control. After Major Harris left, the original group slowly fell apart. The strong connection between the members was broken. Some tried to continue the group with new people, but it was never the same. The magic that fans loved in the early days began to fade. Even though William Hart continued to perform and keep the group's name alive, the feeling of unity was gone. Another big part of the problem came from money and power. Some members of the group said that Tom Bell and William Hart, especially Hart, kept control over everything.
Tommy was smart. Once Tommy found out how things were going, he moved off because he could.
They believed Hart was keeping most of the money for himself. The other members said they worked hard too and deserved a fair share, but they felt like Hart didn't share the earnings fairly. He was in charge of the business, so he decided who got paid and how much. This made the others feel powerless and angry. Over time, the anger grew stronger and created a big wall between them. Some people who knew the group said this control made the other members feel small and left out. They didn't get to make decisions or have a voice. They felt like they were just being used. That kind of feeling can break friendships and trust. The more Hart controlled things, the more the others pulled away. What started as small disagreements slowly turned into big fights. The group may have looked united to fans, but inside, things were falling apart. Another big problem was the writing of their songs. William was the main songwriter.
One of the best lyrics in the world, William Hart. One of the best lyrics in the world. He has the ability to put a story together that you can relate to.
He wrote or helped write many of the Delfonics' big hits. Songs like La La Means I Love You and Didn't I, Blow Your Mind This Time, were part of his work. But some members believed they also added ideas and helped shape those songs. They felt they should have been given credit too. In music, getting credit means a lot. It can bring money, respect, and even future chances to work with other people. When you don't get credit, it can feel like your work was stolen. Some of the members thought he took credit for more than he should have. When people feel they are not being heard or treated fairly, they start to lose trust. The members of the Delfonics started to feel like they were just backing up William instead of being equals in the group. That hurt their relationships and made working together harder and harder. The fights over songwriting made it almost impossible to keep peace.
We got one check for $7,500 a piece for La La Means I Love You. And that's a standing precedent after that.
The group also had many problems with their record label, Philly Groove. Even though the label helped them become famous, the relationship between the band and the label was not always good.
Stan's answer to that was, you guys make your money on the road. Don't worry about the sales of the record.
We used to ride around in a 16-passenger van, right? Stan Watson had a chauffeur, Rolls Royce.
The band wanted to grow and try new things with their music, but the label did not always let them. The label wanted them to stick to the same kind of music that made them popular in the first place. This made the group members feel trapped. They felt like they were being told what to do all the time and were not allowed to be creative or try new sounds. This control made some of the group members very frustrated. They had ideas for new music, but the label didn't want to take any risks. The label only wanted music that sounded like their old hits. The group started feeling like they were just working for the label, not making music for the love of it. They could not express themselves the way they wanted. When artists are not allowed to be creative, it becomes hard for them to enjoy what they do. It felt like the fun was taken out of the music. The group's connection with their label became weaker over time. Some members even began to feel that the label cared more about money than the group's happiness or growth. This tension grew worse as time went on.
We didn't know what publishing was. We didn't know what points was. We didn't know anything but natural entertainment.
After 1974, the group's success began to go down. They were not as popular as they used to be. Other groups like the Stylistics were getting more attention. The music scene was changing, and the Delfonics were not able to keep up. Part of the reason was the creative control problems with their label. They were not allowed to change with the times.
They had to do something because the old sound was fading and the new sound was coming in. So when that new sound comes in, you're trying to stay relevant.
While other groups tried new styles and sounds, the Delfonics were stuck doing the same kind of music they had done before. This made their music sound old-fashioned to some people. Fans started to lose interest, and fewer people bought their albums.
This is where the music is going. The disco music was just, another thing for us.
The music critics also noticed the change. They said the group was not growing or trying anything new. This hurt the group's image. Being seen as outdated or behind the times is hard for any artist. Even though they were still making music, it did not make the same impact as before. They were not topping the charts like they once did. Radio stations played their songs less often, and fewer people talked about them. The group tried to stay active, but things were not the same. Their glory days were slowly fading away. In the end, all the problems added up. The fights inside the group, the money issues, the pressure from the label, and the lack of creative freedom broke the group apart. They slowly fell out of the spotlight. Even though they still had loyal fans, they were no longer the stars they used to be. They did not have the same power in the music world. Their music still had meaning, but the energy and magic that once made them shine had faded. The members went their own ways, and the group was never quite the same again. Even with all the trouble, the Delfonics left a strong mark on soul music. Their songs are still loved by many people today. Their voices and style helped shape the Philadelphia sound. But their story is also a sad one. It shows how things behind the scenes can ruin something beautiful. Many people think of their music as sweet and romantic, but they don't always know the hard truth behind it. The group had talent, but they also had a lot of struggles. Their story is not just about success, it is also about how too much control, money problems, and personal fights can tear something special apart. Around 1980 was when Major Harris decided to leave Wilbert Hart's group and join William Hart's group instead. Another member named Randy Kane came back to the group during this time too.
Randy was the sweetest, nicest person anybody could ever know. Somehow he fit.
Later, in 1985, Frank Washington also switched from Wilbert Hart's group and joined William's group. So the main team that recorded new songs included William Hart, Major Harris, and Frank Washington. But even though they recorded together, they still toured separately in different groups. In 1989, Wilbert Hart, Major Harris, and Frank Washington went on TV. They appeared on the Arsenio Hall show and performed as the Delfonics. This was a special moment for fans to see them back together, even if only for a short time. During the 1990s, the Delfonics groups kept performing. The group with William Hart, Major Harris, and Frank Washington even helped with a hip-hop song. They sang background vocals on a track called After the Smoke is Clear. This song was on a 1996 album called Iron Man by Ghostface Killah. This showed that younger musicians still respected and wanted to work with the Delfonics. But even during the 1990s, the group members kept changing. William Hart started touring with Johnny Johnson and Garfield Fleming. This new group used the name the Delfonics. Major Harris formed another team with Frank Washington and Pat Palmer. Wilbert Hart also created his own group again. His group had Salam Love, who used to be in William's group. He also added Eben Brown, who used to sing with groups like Ray, Goodman, and Brown, and the Manhattans. Eben Brown stayed with Wilbert's group for 5 years, from 1993 to 1998. Then, he decided to take a short break from music. When Eben Brown and Salam Love left Wilbert's group, new singers came in. Van Fields became the new first tenor. Another new member was Greg Hill, who came from New York. Around 1999, Fields and Hill were part of the group, but their time didn't last long either. Fields left in 2000 to join another group called the Stylistics. Greg Hill stayed a few more years but left in 2005. After he left, Dr. Salam Love came back and replaced him. William Hart's group with Johnson and Fleming became more popular in concerts. They were featured on DVDs like The Big Show and 70s Soul Jam. These DVDs showed live performances and reminded fans of the good old days. Meanwhile, Wilbert Hart's group was shown on a DVD called Old School Soul Party Live. This was part of a PBS series called My Music. Major Harris was also featured on a DVD that was re-released. It was a concert from 1975 called Blue Magic Kochmargie Joseph, Major Harris Live.
WMOT Productions proudly present the 3M Show, featuring Atlantic recording stars Mrs. Margie Joseph, and also starring Major Harris and the exciting Blue Magic.
In 2005, Wilbert Hart released a new CD. It was called Phonic Zone. He wrote and produced all the songs himself. A famous rapper named Rick Ross was on one of the songs. The single was called Here For You.
I apologize for the person I am and the ways I'm said.
This showed that even after many years, Wilbert Hart was still making music and staying creative. William kept performing with his group, which still included Johnson and Fleming. Wilbert Hart also kept touring with his group. His group had Salam Love and a singer named Branch. At one special event, Randy Kane came back. He joined William and Wilbert at the Rhythm and Blues Foundation Awards in Philadelphia. The three men performed together for the first time in many years. They were also honored with the Pioneer Award for their work in music. After the show, Randy Kane stayed and went on tour with William Hart. He stayed with that group until he passed away. Randy Kane sadly died on April 9th, 2009. He was 63 years old. It was a big loss for the group and the fans. Just a few years later, Major Harris died on November 9th, 2012. He was 65 years old. These deaths were very sad for fans who grew up with the Delfonics music. In 2020, William and Wilbert Hart celebrated 55 years in the music business. This was a big achievement. They had stayed active in music for over 5 decades. Many groups don't last that long, but the Delfonics kept going. But in 2022, more sad news came. William passed away on July 14th, 2022. He was 77 years old. His death marked the end of an era. After his passing, Johnny Johnson and Garfield Fleming came back to perform. They were joined by Michael Muse. Michael had once sung with the Stylistics for a short time. Now he helped keep the music of the Delfonics alive. The group was now called William Hart's Delfonics, even though William was no longer with them. As of 2025, Wilbert Hart is the only original member of the Delfonics still alive and still performing. He continues to sing and keep the memory of the group strong. The Delfonics left behind a strong legacy. Many artists have covered their songs or used samples of their music in other songs. Their song, La La Means I Love You, is one of their most famous songs. Many singers and groups have made their own versions. The Jackson 5, Todd Rundgren, and Prince are just a few. Prince changed the title a little to La 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 Means Love You. Even rapper Ghostface Killah used it in his 2004 song, Holla. The song was also used in movies and on TV. It played in Spike Lee's film, Crooklyn, in 1994. It was heard in the TV show Malcolm in the Middle in 2000. In the movie The Family Man, actor Nicolas Cage sang it to Téa Leoni. In 2006, it was used again in the TV show The Sopranos. In 2017, the band The Roots performed the song on The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon. Another famous song by the Delfonics is Didn't I? Blow Your Mind This Time. Aretha Franklin sang her version in 1971. Other singers like Jackie Jackson, Maxine Nightingale, and Millie Jackson also made their own versions. In 1986, the boy band New Kids on the Block covered the song too. Regina Belle, Lisa Fischer, and Patti LaBelle also made beautiful versions in later years. The Delfonics will always be remembered for their smooth voices and beautiful songs. Their music touched many people and still lives on today through other artists, movies, and TV shows. Even with all the changes, breakups, and losses, their sound continues to bring joy.